we realized it was quite serious because he had so many tubes and things going into him. The night nurse in intensive care told me it was all right to hold his hand, that the tubes wouldn't come out, and I should talk to him. I sat there and chatted to him, and something made me say all the things that I thought that if I didn't say, I might not get another chance. It seemed to me then, in the intensive care, on my own with him, I seemed to realize that Daniel really wasn't going to recover. It just dawned on me that he seemed to me to be slipping away. Although, why I got that impression, I don't know, because he looked quite warm and content under sedation. Then a little tear ran down his cheek, and I realized he'd stopped breathing. It was a machine keeping him alive after that. The machine kept him going. It wasn't him breathing for himself, it was the machine doing all the work. And it was at that stage they said to us, if by some misfortune that we find from brainstem tests that Daniel is not able to sustain life for himself, then there's a very difficult question that we would need to ask you. And we want you to have time to think about it. We looked at each other and said, well, we think we know what that is. That if Daniel is not able to live himself, would he like others to benefit from his body? And they said yes. That is what we wanted to ask. The initial brainstem test was done, and it showed that Daniel was not able to sustain life for himself. And I could come along to the second brainstem test. I watched them remove the large tube from his mouth and insert a small oxygen tube in its place. They explained to me why they were doing that. It was to keep Daniel's organs in good condition, as he was a potential donor. It underlined to me what the machine was actually doing for him. The oxygen going in that had made him look alive. But I understand there is not one single case of somebody being kept in that condition and having lived. If there was any doubt in my mind at all, I would be extremely worried about it now, but there is no doubt whatsoever, none whatsoever. I held Daniel's hand and I squeezed it a little bit harder than I should, I think, and I wanted to shout at him, "Come on, Daniel." But I knew inside me that he wasn't there. It was quite obvious that he wasn't there. And I looked up at the others standing around the bed, and they were all crying. I knew then that these weren't nurses and doctors. These were mums and dads, just ordinary people like we were. And if they could have done anything, they would have done it. We didn't discuss it ourselves or go away, because we knew that Daniel would want his organs to be used for the benefit of others, because that was how he was. When he was about 7, he came in with about 10 donor cards. He said, "I've just seen these in the shops. How do you play these cards? I don't know how to play them." My mother turned around and said to him, "They are not cards that you play like ordinary playing cards, but when you die, you can help other people live. You donate your body to help somebody else live." He said, "Oh, if I die, I want to do that." He would be absolutely thrilled to know that people have benefited from his tragedy. In the Chapel of Rest, he did not look disfigured. Even though his cornea had been removed, the lids were carefully closed up with tiny stitches. They were hardly visible. Apart from that, there were no other signs that he'd had anything removed at all. About a month later, we heard from the transplant coordinator. She told us that Daniel had successfully been a donor of both his kidneys and his liver and 2 cornea. They hadn't found a match for his heart or lungs. We received a letter from a family, a mother, thanking us for being generous enough at a difficult time for ourselves to donate Daniel's liver to her little 9-year-old girl. We do know that 2 local boys had his kidneys, and one of them rejected, nothing to do with his kidneys, it was the drugs that he was on. And the other boy was in the transplant games last year. Had Daniel not been an organ donor, had he not donated his organs and helped others, I don't think I could have lived with it. I think the sudden loss of Daniel and the end of everything would have been the end of me. I think I would have gone back to drink, I really would. It would have been the total end. But it wasn't an end. It was almost as if we didn't have to focus on his death. We were able to focus on what he had done at his death, his final achievement, if you like, an achievement so wonderful that it overpowers the tragedy almost, and the fact that death is so final. It's not a reward you get, it's just something that happens as a result of a loved one wishing to give their organs to somebody else. They give their organs to someone else so that they can have the gift of life. And what they give us is filled with the joy of knowing that good has come out of his death, as opposed to us having to know nothing has come out of his death, only pain and sorrow and sadness. We don't need a cold stone or a plaque with Daniel's name on. Wherever we go, he will be with us. He will never be forgotten.